Hello, everyone, and welcome to another day of Frost Fatale 2022. Now, to remind you, this is an all-women online speedrunning event benefiting Malala Fund, and this is presented by Frame Fatale with GDQ. So glad to have you all here for another day, and so excited to speak with another member of Malala Fund. Today, I am joined by Mashal Hussain, who is the Girl Activist Program Officer with Malala Fund. How's it going today?
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. I know. Very exciting to talk with you. Now, I wanted to ask, and I like asking everybody always this question, but can you tell me a little bit more about what you do as a Girl Activist Program Officer? Like what that means?
Yes, of course. So a little bit about Malala Fund itself. It's a nonprofit organization founded by Nobel laureate Malala Yousafzai and her father. And the focus of this organization is to tackle issues that prevent girls from accessing 12 years of free, safe, and quality education. Now, within that mission, I work on a program called the Girl Program. The Girl Program specifically is our take at or our attempt to sort of directly work with young women and girls who work towards the barriers regarding this access of 12 years free, safe, quality education. So these are often young, women-led, girl-led initiatives, not necessarily large organizations, tackling the problems that their communities and their spheres of influences face. And so within that, I'm a program officer. So I manage the various things that we do within the Grow program.
So would you say that this is like with all of these programs, do you oversee all the ones like going around the world, or do you focus on specific areas?
So all of Malala Fund it's a global organization. So many of our programs, many of our programs are also, in fact, all of them are global. They have different countries that we operate in. So the Girl Program specifically at the moment works across 5 countries. I'm from one of those countries, so it's important to me. And just this year, we are going to, hopefully in the coming year, we're going to be expanding to a few more countries. So we're looking at about 8. Some of those include Nigeria, Brazil, Pakistan, from India, Bangladesh, and Ethiopia.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, it's always great to hear something like this expanding and getting more traction in different areas. Now, I also did recall you saying, the girl-led programs and things. Can you give me some maybe examples, maybe your favorite examples or things that have stood out to you about like some of these programs that have been going on, or like, maybe including some of the trials that these girls have had to face?
Sure, I can speak to, I guess, one particular program that it's in its pilot phase, and it's kind of, at the moment, it's our signature piece in the Girl Program. It's our fellowship. And the fellowship is kind of it's a long journey that a select few group of girls who apply to be part of the fellowship through other organizations that we work with. They basically go through a learning curriculum. They get to do a little project at the end, and hopefully we help them turn that into however they envision that. And the point of this journey is to raise their consciousness, not necessarily with any other expectations tied to it. And so I think one of the most striking features about this program is that we tailored a curriculum based on the needs of the participants. So nothing was predetermined or preset. We kind of had applications. We asked, what's the need? What's where are the gaps? What are the things you're working on that need other forms of support? And kind of we tailored it towards those, and so far it's been working well. So that's one of the features.
That's great. That's super great to hear. I know, like, now I'm really curious to hear more about like, oh, what are some of these fellowships? Like, what are the girls doing? And feel free to interrupt anytime if you have any that you'd like to talk about. But um, that sounds really wonderful to it's just like offering a bigger space for these girls. Do you know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
just sounds like it's giving them that kind of like freedom to learn and just to grow, which is amazing.
Yeah, I know. And we actually learn a lot from them. So it's definitely not, it's not just unilateral. It's definitely, there's multiple ways that learning is happening. So
That's
just
awesome.
hearing what's happening in their communities, hearing what's happening in what they advocate for and what they're doing in their work, and hearing the challenges and how they're so similar, but the context is so different. Um, it's humbling work.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sure. And like it really is like even just working online and getting to know like a whole array of people, it is very like mind expanding. So yeah, you get like more perspective and more information just on things that maybe you wouldn't have known about previously or weren't a part of. So I can definitely see how that can be the case with like this kind of situation. Now, in terms of that and like being involved with everything, like what got you involved with Malala Fund in the first place?
Yeah, of course. Kind of an amusing story if you think about it. I've been at Malala Fund for about a year and a half. Um, Prior to that, what I was doing, I'm an athlete. I play football for my country, and before that, while I was doing that, a lot of my job was to try and get sports into school curriculum because for girls and especially young girls, recreational activity sports, these are not common in Pakistan. Um, and so I had heard Malala Fund was looking for a consultant to, improve the quality of their work and basically bolster their in-country operations. And at the time, I wasn't 100% clear what in-country ops entailed. My ideas were based on things you hear in the news, things you read about. And so I was like, this is a great opportunity to get sports into all the schools. If Malala's saying it's gone, it's gonna, this is a great way to do it. And I applied and I was like, this is how it's gonna happen. And somehow it seemed to like the application, but the role that I had applied for was to be an in-country representative. What the role that they had advertised for was to be an in-country representative, not for the consultancy I'd applied for. And so during that first interview, they were just like, we know you've said all this, but here's what we need. Are you still interested? And I was like, yes, because one day it's going to happen. And so a year and a half later, here I am working in a very direct sort of engagement program at Malala Fund. So I feel might have been maybe a slight misunderstanding, but I'm so happy that it worked out. It's kind of been a life-changing career move for me.
That's awesome. So then within that, like, I mean, I guess, yeah, it's like more than you were expecting, but it's really been able to like add more to what you do. Like, have you been able to use that as an opportunity to encourage more recreation and sports? Or
I mean, in an interesting way, I think it works both ways. What I do on ground I work with certain communities within the city I live in, and I work with adult women and keeping them engaged in play. And the lessons I learn from there are super helpful when we're doing policy work in Malala Fund or when we're doing program designing or management, and vice versa. I'm because I'm an athlete in my country, people have a certain stereotype of how they see you. It's not very common for females to say, okay, no, I'm an athlete and I run around and I play. And so when I say this, and then they're like, where's that going to get you in life? And I say, well, I actually do work at an NGO that does education full time. And they're like, oh my God, you can do both things. And just because you play sports doesn't mean you have to be a complete delinquent. And I was like, no, absolutely not. That's exactly the opposite of my experience. And not just my experience. I can speak to so many young women I've worked with. And so I think both ways, it's been sort of a value add for education and a value add for sports.
Funny, I feel like I have like a similar argument sometimes on my end. I'm like, not all gamers are delinquents. Come on, we do things.
I hear that. I completely hear that.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely understand that. Now with your sports and everything else you do, like, is there anything kind of related to Malala Fund or to this event that maybe you do outside of your direct work with Malala Fund that you'd like to touch on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think and here I have to say, I feel I'm super privileged in not just what I do at Malala Fund, because I get the opportunity to do that for an organization that believes in the cause, but similar to what I think that you are, a little bit of the work that you do and touch on, is what I do through football is community building. And we use, for me, I'm using football as a platform. I'm saying football, you might know it better as soccer, but football is what we use to sort of build communities, small communities of women and young girls, and schools, and kind of get them together to advocate for a similar or the same cause. And so while football is my platform, what I'm understanding about certain things, your platform, what you're doing, is getting people who believe in a particular cause, and the way that you're engaging them is another thing that they align on. And so you've got this like connection building going, and I feel like since this is not the first year even that you've been doing it, that community that might have that probably does exist, is something that runs through in a lot of our programming. Also, that's what we're trying to get. We know that girls' education is not something one organization is we're not going to fix the whole thing. There's no way. We need to do it with people around us. We need to do it with organizations who work towards the same cause in different ways. And that's kind of what I'm understanding about the events that you're running, what we do in football. It's not that everyone has one mindset or everyone plays the game in one way. They do it in different. That's kind of also the entertainment value, the enjoyment, the joy that comes from it. So I think in all those three things work. What I think I understand about what you're doing, and what I do on the pitch, the community building, the camaraderie, the common cause sharing, that seems to be a similar theme.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it absolutely is. And the community building, I would say we have here, and the community that we've built, not only around Games Done Quick, but, more specifically, the Frame Fatale community is so, okay. My word for it is lovely. I've just had such a wonderful experience with everybody, and seeing people coming together in this way has been incredible. So yes, I think it's definitely similar. I think there are definitely things that overlap there in terms of like building that up and feeling those strong bonds, and people really, it's like you really have that chance to like relate and feel like you are achieving things together, and it's amazing. Now before I let you go, I wanted to know if you had any other like stories that you wanted to tell based on your experiences working with Malala Fund so far. It's kind of up to you.
The stories I could tell, but I think more important, I guess there's different ways to look at it. I think my experience working. So there's a couple of things I think I'd like to say is that, and touching on what you just said in terms of just them coming together, is that in this organization, it's been one of my first sort of professional experiences working with a majority of female staff. And for me, just given my context, most of my career has been in Pakistan, even in the development sector, even in football. That's never the case. It's usually not at all, mostly female. And so one thing I really, really come to appreciate is how this organization really, I feel my experience here growing with female bosses who are not, or even just other leadership figures and just other people here in the organization has been amazing in that it's been a different way to approach work. And I really, really appreciate the gendered sort of lens that everything comes with. And that's not common for me in my experience. And I think something you mentioned earlier is that when you do, the platform you're building, and even for me in football, these are often sort of male dominated areas. And so the fact that you often, maybe not always, but the fact that you have this community of women coming together and doing this and then building on that, I think that's a very powerful thing to be part of. And I feel like I get to do that at work. I feel I get to do that. I get to take that and do it outside work. And then I get, and again, like I said, the learning goes both ways. And so I think that's been one of my most unique experiences in this role.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad to hear about it. And the fact that you've been having such a great time with Malala Fund and the work that you're helping to do to, expand these girls' voices and the opportunities that they have and like getting them active. I'm always very supportive of that as well. So thank you so much for speaking with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I am going to hand it off now to the lovely host to introduce the first game of the marathon today. So exciting to get another day going. So thank you so much again, Mashal. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, of course. Awesome. All right, everyone. I'm going to leave it to the host and take it away.